You're listening to Tabletop Arcanum, a podcast dedicated to learning and exploring the hobby of tabletop gaming. Your hosts are Justin Taylor and Richard Geese, so sit back and relax as we talk, discuss, and joke our way through the hobby we love so much. Dare to discover Forbidden Island. Join a team of fearless adventurers on a do-or-die mission to capture 4 sacred treasures from the ruins of this perilous paradise. Your team will have to work together and make some pulse-pounding maneuvers as this island will sink beneath every step. Race to collect the treasures and make a triumphant escape before you are swallowed into a watery abyss. That's Forbidden Island. Gear up for thrilling adventure to recover a legendary flying machine buried deep in the ruins of the ancient desert city. You'll need to coordinate with your teammates and use every available resource if you hope to survive the scorching heat and relentless sandstorm. Find the flying machine and escape before you become permanent artifacts of the Forbidden Desert. Soar to dizzying heights in this electrifying cooperative adventure. Work as a team to explore a mysterious platform that floats at the center of a savage storm. Connect a circuit of cables to launch a secret rocket, all before you're struck by lightning or blown to the depths below. It's a high-wire act that will test your team's capacity for courage and cooperation. One false step and you will all be grounded permanently.
Welcome to Tabletop Arcanum. We're your hosts,
Justin
and Ricky. And if you couldn't tell by now, we're talking about Forbidden Island. No, scratch that. Forbidden Desert. No, scratch that. Forbidden Sky. No, scratch that. All of them. All of them at once.
Yeah, so a three for review of the Forbidden series. Kind of came to mind when we were talking about what we were planning doing next. And we could just do review one or the other, but with how we reviewed Suro, this would be a good trilogy to kind of do in a one-shot overall review of all 3 games. Because they're similar enough that I believe they all kind of have similar strengths and similar weaknesses. But they all do something a little bit different. We'll cover that. But first,
our roll recap. And we're going to get into the thick of things right away. I'm going to tell you that I played Codenames. I played a few rounds with, not Disney Codenames this time, original Codenames.
Oh.
Ooh, yeah. My girlfriend's friends had it, and we went over there for dinner, and they busted it out, and of course, we just jumped straight into it. It was kind of nice to see where the game that she really enjoys came from. A little bit different mechanically, which is perfectly fine. And then also, of course, we played Forbidden Island. We played the Forbidden series to get us ready for this.
True.
And if you couldn't guess it, Death Eaters Rising.
Oh, man.
Hogwarts Battle.
What?
Next question.
All right. Let's see. I played, some Marvel Champions. Got to mess around with the Goblin scenario. As well as multiplayer Cap and multiplayer Miss Marvel. That was a lot of fun. Busted out some Gloomhaven. Then we also played, after Gloomhaven, there was still some time before, let's leave. So busted out a deck building game called Kamigami Battles. Battle for the 9 Realms. There's a couple versions of it. But essentially anime-based card collecting deck building game with some mechanics attached to that. Test played some Call to Adventure, which I've been posting about on the social medias that is attached to Tabletop Arcanum. Finished off in a 2 the Dunwich Legacy Return to at Arkham Horror. So we sealed away the great evil Yogg-Sothoth. But it did take a toll on all of us personally. But we'll be kicking off another campaign soon. It's a toss-up between Return to Carcosa and I think Forgotten Age. So we might do Return to Carcosa mostly because it's the newest Return to box, so we can get a little bit more variety mix-up on it. And then probably by the time we're done with that, we'll jump into the Dream Eaters, which is still about 3 months away from releasing. We would have jumped into that one now, except for it's doing this back and forth 2 4-part campaigns opposed to one long 8-part campaign. So we would likely bump against it before the release is finished. So, but we've got plenty of Arcanum to play, so no harm. That'll come soon. Then it was another week of Gloomhaven. More call to adventure playtesting this time. I'm introducing it to more and more people. My wife and I busted out Fog of Love. Tried that out. It's a very interesting game mechanic because you're cooperatively working together, kind of, but you really, one of you could win, both of you could win, or both of you can lose. It's like a romantic comedy relationship game. You're not playing yourself. You're playing these fictional characters. Like Jeff, the security guard, who, it didn't specify what security guard, so he was a mall cop. And
she really enjoyed that, didn't she?
Yeah, she had a lot of fun with it. The tutorial was really well done because it's all stacked decks, and it's like, here, read these 4 cards. Now you know what to do in your turn right now, so do that until you see this card, which is like card number 7. Then when you get this card 7, read card 7, and it'll teach you a couple new rules, and like it walked you through the first game, but in such a way where, unlike the Wingspan Jumpstart kit, it actually walked us through, and we actually knew what we were doing and why we were doing it at the same time. So that helped.
Nice.
Busted out some Arkham Noir, as we had a snowy weekend. So as the wife was watching Hallmark movies, I secluded myself and played some Arkham. And then Forbidden Sky and Forbidden Desert and Forbidden Island were all kind of thrown in the mix. Because while I've played them all, it was kind of a refresh to kind of like dig deeper into the nuances of how each one's a little different from each other. That is it. So it's been fun. A lot of games, a lot of interesting. I've been prepping for kicking off a new D&D campaign, so we'll see how that goes. It's an Eberron game from a bunch of people that one friend of mine works with, so we'll see how that ends up going. I haven't actually run or gamed with any of these guys before other than the one, so it's a group of 5. I know one of the 5.
You've DM'd for me. I'm pretty sure that gets you ready for anything, because I just pull all kinds of nonsense out of my butt.
Yes and no. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it's all good. I think it'll be interesting. So let's dive into our review of the Forbidden series. These are...
Well, before we jump in, just wanted to also remind everyone, badges for Gen Con are up.
True.
If you're planning on getting a hotel room, get your badge now. I don't know when the cutoff is for the lottery, but they will send out
your time slot for the lottery on the Saturday before. That's probably what you're thinking. It's the 8th that you get your time slot, and the 9th is when the actual portals open.
There we go. Yeah, so you want to make sure you get your ticket as soon as possible, get your badge as soon as possible, just to make sure that you get thrown into the lottery for the hotel. So, but with that being said, I'm just had to have a PSA out there so everyone knew.
You've been informable.
I'm encourageable.
That too.
Yeah.
So, Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, Forbidden Sky. Loosely sequeled off each other, kind of a weird narrative, kind of goes, because you collect, essentially all of the first 2, Desert and Island, you collect 4 pieces of a puzzle, put it together, and escape your situation, whether you're stuck in the desert or out of sinking island. Sky mixed it up a little bit, that you're trying to build a circuit for a rocket ship, and then once you build the circuit, you can launch the rocket, but you have to be on the rocket in order to escape. So, it's all about co-op and action management, primarily. They are 2 to 4 players for Forbidden Island, and then 5 players for Sky and Desert. On average, 30 to 90 minutes, depending on which version you're playing. Island's faster than Desert, and Desert's faster than Sky.
Mm-hmm.
So as you go into the series, they get a little bit more heavier and a little bit more complex. They're all still relatively light games as far as entry level. But they've gotten Mensa Select rewards on them and things of that nature. It's like they're good thinking games and like problem solving and like, okay, you have 3 things you can do this turn. What are they going to be in order for us not to lose? Because like most co-op games, there are way more ways to lose these than to win.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all designed by Matt Leacock. So you've got, and this is kind of like his original bread and butter, from what I put together. It's like Forbidden Island site where he kind of made his mark on the gaming map. And then moved on to other things as well as continue the series. So very good in that sense. Let's talk about Forbidden Island first. First impressions, what do you think?
Very simplistic, which is nice. It's I think me and you were talking, you said it was a great game to play with like younger gamers because it's just a straightforward thinking game. You get cards, you play cards, you try to collect cards, so on and so forth, jump back and forth. So just looking at it, very, very basic, but not in a boring kind of basic way.
So, relatively simplistic. Desert, a little bit more elaborate than that. I like them, first impressions, they all come with very nice inserts. Everything kind of has a home inside the boxes. All of your treasures and jewels are actually like physical objects that you're collecting. So there's a lot of like table presence, even though it's simplistic. The pawns are just colored pawns because they're related to the different character roles you get. Card stock is relatively. They got a nice linen finish on them, so they're thin, but they're resistant for your younger audiences too. I can even tell, like Forbidden Island, I taught my nephews how to play that one. They pretty much got it along with their friends, so not a big deal. Suggested ages 10 up, and a lot of that is more reading than anything else, because you have to understand what you're reading, why you're reading, and like the power cards and gear cards that you get in the various games have that component attached to them. Forbidden Sky, a lot more in the box as a first impression. You get a little plastic rocket ship, you get wires and little discs and little lightning rods, and the tiles are smaller and it's a lot more to it, but still keeps it on the friendly looking level.
It was a little more intimidating opening up Forbidden Sky than the other two because it came with a lot of pieces.
Yep.
But then when you kind of broke everything down, you said it's still simplistic enough to make sense.
So Island and Desert kind of have a very similar, you set up the board, you're moving around a randomized layout. And Desert, the tiles are sinking and going away if you don't fix them quickly. Desert, kind of the reverse is happening. There's a sandstorm and that blows around and that adds little sand tiles to it, so you have to actually unbury the tiles to actually view them to be able to potentially find the items that you're looking for. Where Sky is actually an exploratory style tiles. So this is a little bit more of, you don't know where you're going, so you draw tiles and then you move and you drop them, and that you kind of keep, you explore the platform as it goes, so it's still random. You have a little control of that randomness. The only thing you don't control on that is what tiles you end up drawing. Sometimes you just get what you get. So in first impressions, clean look, easy table presence. Other than Sky, they don't take up a lot of space. Sky can, depending on how you build it out, because you're exploring and literally like, oh, we're going this way, so we're going this way, and it gets really long or it gets really short. Ideally, you try to keep it gravitated because you're trying to complete a circuit of electrical lines. So that's our first impressions. What are some positive things? What do these do well?
They really bring in They really have like the co-op game down well. It's a game that you can introduce someone to. Pretty easy to understand, pretty easy to go through. I just think it's a fun game. It can be frustrating, but that's part of the fun too.
Right. So they're challenging co-op games, which is actually one of the good things about them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that they're not like an easy breezy co-op game that you're gonna like. All right, now we win again! Yay!
Oh, we won in 15 minutes. Let's see if we can win it in 14.
Yeah. There is a lot of good stuff that it does. The actions are pretty simple and straightforward. They don't actually even change much between the games. One of the things that the series does well is Desert, Island, and Sky are all different enough in how you achieve your goals that each one can be a standalone game, or you can play all of them or have multiple in your collection. Like, I personally own Island and Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I have a buddy who has Desert. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't feel like I need to add Desert, but if I had Desert, I could see playing all three of them.
Yeah. And it's like I have Island, I can come play Sky.
Right. But if you own Sky and Island, like I do, it's not a bad thing. It's unlike Suro, which we did a couple episodes ago. I don't feel it's as redundant as that series.
Yeah, you brought that up, and that was a fair point because each game is different enough, the same enough, but different enough that you say this is definitely.
Here's where the similarities, and then all of a sudden, here's where it's going to differ, and it feels different. It plays differently enough where you don't feel like you're just playing it with a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
So those are some really positive things about it. I love the entry level access to it too, because these are some really great gateway level games. They're on the tougher side, but not necessarily in the how to play. It's just tougher to win. And they all come with varying difficulty levels too. So, like, if you start getting it down, up your difficulty level. Kind of like a video game.
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, you play video games a lot, so easy is easy to you, and novice is pretty okay. Why don't you try it on advanced or expert? It gets rough.
Yeah.
So that's some really good positive stuff. Let's hit some of the negative aspects. We always like talking about the good things and the bad things. So, hit me up with what did not shine so well on these.
Well, depending on the draw, it can either go real easy or just be disgustingly hard. We had a game of Forbidden Island, me and you, where everything, the random placement of the tiles, everything was just right next to each other. So
the cards that we got, the tiles that were laid out in the right way, everything was pretty much an easy street at that point.
Yeah. We had our reshuffle the second to last card in the deck.
Yeah.
So, not having the randomized is nice, but at the same time can really
the problem really comes down to is the board's randomized, the deck is randomized, your character pawns are supposed to be randomized, so like you don't even get to pick which one you are. Like, oh, I always play green isn't a thing. Like, you get dealt one of 6 rolls, and depending on the combination of rolls on the table and the board layout, like you said, it could be a very easy game or it could be a very challenging game. And that's just based on randomness and not anything that you're doing as a skilled player.
Yeah, so I mean, you could be on easy and still just get a gruelingly hard game. And when you introduce that to people, sometimes I find if you have that easy game right away, they're very gung-ho about playing it again. And then after they play it a few more times and realize how tough it actually is,
right,
they aren't as big of a fan. I kind of wish that there was an entry level, like, this is what you're going to do, lay it out this way for one game to introduce someone to it.
Yeah.
But that's just a personal preference. I love my girlfriend, but when we played Rise of the Death Eaters, our first game we beat it like almost instantly. It was like just stupid easy. And she was just gung-ho, and every night I would come and she's like, let's play this again.
Well,
And I kept saying, that it's not what you expect. Like, trust me, this is going to get just stupid difficult.
it can be, because it's all randomized.
Yeah.
That's a lot like Thanos Rising, where, like, if you get a good momentum early on, and the right cards flip and the right dice results, the game is, it steamrolls into, well, this was pretty easy, and it's making it easier, and it's making it easier, and then all of a sudden you're steamrolling the entire game. But that's not the normal. Now, the funny thing is, like, as you guys won Death Eater Rising so easily, it just always makes me think back to when Thanos Rising was coming out. The local store actually put up a challenge of, if you could sit down and play and win a game, you could win a game. When it fully came out, because he got a demo copy, so it was one of those like, hey, learn to play, hype. But having played it a bunch, it was like, no, this game's tough. So I'm going to try to incentivize, like, hey, try to do well, and you can win a copy.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah.
That was like a month of that. So randomized is both a nice thing about this game, because it gives you a fresh challenge, but it also can hurt the game a lot. And I find it hurts the game more than it helps. So that's one of the challenges of that randomization. So both good. It can be a very good thing because it gives you longevity in the game, but it typically works against the game if there's too many things that are random and out of your control, because those setups. There's several other co-op games that I can name that have that same component that's just rough to, like, bad setup. You're just going to have a bad game from the get-go. Desert, kind of, that was mostly island. Desert kind of has the same exact faults. It shows up a little bit differently, and that's more of where that sandstorm blows. Yeah. Versus the layout. Because I've seen it games where it just doesn't really do anything, and it's like, oh, well, okay, we'll uncover this, uncover that. Great. Here's a couple pieces already. We're good to go. And then I've seen other games where it's whipping around and, like, burying everything in sand. The entire half the game we're just unburying tiles to maybe see what's underneath it and then not have anything valuable underneath it. The negatives on Sky really come down to is each player can only hold 3 of these tiles, and you're trying to build a pretty elaborate circuit, and until you've played it a few times, it's hard to gauge if a short wire or long wire distance is what you're looking at. Once you've played a few rounds, like, you'll start to navigate, like, okay, these have to be a lot closer than I thought. And to create a loop with a landing platform that you don't know where it is to start with is rough. I feel that one's a little bit tougher in the sense of you need the right rolls or the right tiles to show up, because if you don't have any way to fix your ropes, or because one of the games we played, we didn't have the ability to fix our ropes. We never saw any gear to fix our ropes, and the wind kept blowing us off platforms. So we lost our ropes. We just lost together because then we couldn't do anything about that. Yeah. Even our positioning wasn't good enough most of the time.
And we started saying, hey, we're at the end of our rope. We need to stay further this way, so if we get blown off,
and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah, and then double
high winds. That's all it takes. And I don't know if it's just me, but the components in Sky, while they're neat, because there's actually, it's a little battery circuit that you build, which can be really cool. And when you actually win, the rocket will actually electronically do a countdown and blast off, which I believe for the younger audiences is going to be extra cool. I don't know if I feel like the quality of components slipped as they went down. Like, the first 2 are in tins, and they're nice plastic pieces. And then Sky is nice plastic pieces, but I feel like they had to divert more costs to the electronic components of it, so the plastic isn't as nice as it could be. That's just my hot take, and I'm not sure where their development money went. It's a larger box than the other games, too. But that's just because there's more pieces and more components to it.
Yeah, I do feel like they would be able to somewhat fit that into a smaller box, but at the same time,
They just
it
did
is what it is. Yeah. And if you're looking to save space, I would suggest going with the first two.
Island or desert, definitely.
Yeah.
You can fit both of those on the same shelf that Sky takes up.
Yeah.
They're about half the size. So, not necessarily a total knock against it, but if you had to pick one of the three, which would you pick?
I mean, I'm going to go with Island, just because I picked it up for my girlfriend 2 years ago for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my first, I mean, it's everyone's first foray into the Forbidden series. But it's still a lot of fun. Still very neatly packed, very small. Can kind of take it anywhere and bust it out. How about you?
Having played all three a bunch of times now, I think I gravitate towards desert the most. Because I want a little bit more going on than Island gives me. But I don't think I want the circuit building and the complexity of, like, man, if we don't get the right tiles lined up in the right spots the right way, this is just going to be an uphill slog. That Sky patrols. Like, I don't know, I like that happy medium that Desert has. It's a little bit more complex, but not totally beholden to luck all the time either. So, all three are good. Like, if you just, like, gave me one of the three, I'm going to say, yay, this is great. But if I had to pick one of the three, I think I like Desert the most.
Fair enough.
But it's a close race.
Yeah.
They're all pretty good staple games to play. Who would you recommend the Island of? Who would you recommend the Forbidden series for?
I would suggest it towards family game night, to be honest.
Okay.
Because everyone knows if you play Monopoly with your family, you'll end up, hating each other and resenting each other into adulthood. Something like this, a co-op game. And also a co-op game where you can burn through a game in half an hour to an hour.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't go the way that you want, you can start right back up.
Right. I've done that before. Like, chain a couple Island games together in, like, 2, 3 in a row. They do kind of have that potential problem of quarterbacking because everything's kind of public knowledge. If that's an issue, just be aware of it. But it's not necessarily the end-all, be-all of the game. I know that a lot of people have issues with co-op games for that reason. But I think we talked about that way earlier with our Lexicon episode, if I remember right. That while quarterbacking is a thing, if you're conscious of it, as long as you don't have the wrong player at your table, it's not that bad.
Yeah. I can be a little bit of a quarterbacker myself playing Harry Potter when we play with new people, and my girlfriend's pointed out to me, and it's one of those, all right.
Let them do their turn?
Yeah. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, the trick I've learned overall with quarterbacking and trying to not quarterback in people is as long as as long as the other player knows what types of actions they can take, great. If they're unsure of what actions they can take, that's where it doesn't hurt to step in and go, well, you could do this, or this, or this. And still let them choose, but, like, here are the options allowed in front of you. You know, remember, you can move, you can draw a tile, you can play a tile, you can play a card, you can flip a tile. These are all things that you can do. Our goal is to try to get these things. How do you want to do that? And because these games are on the shorter side, if you lose, you lose. It's not the end of the world. Just reset and try it again.
Yeah.
It's not like your third hour of Arkham Horror, where sometimes it's tougher to not quarterback because if you don't play perfectly, you did lose a 2-hour or 3-hour
Yeah.
game, which is a lot more impactful. You can't just reset then and try again
Yeah.
as easily.
Yeah.
So I think these, while that potential's there, isn't the worst thing in the world. This is, yeah, I definitely agree. Family game night recommendation, entry level. If you want some thinking and strategy and kind of like mental engagement of how you're going to solve it, these do really, really good job. There's a reason why they got the Mensa Awards for that.
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend this for people who would strongly quarterback and run a table because of how public every information is. There is a high risk for that there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for a lot of meat in your game,
Mm-hmm.
and like big crunchy decisions, it doesn't really have those. Your micro decisions are going to impact your game sometimes, but there's a lot of elements you cannot control.
Yeah.
Like, you can make the best decision you have available with the knowledge you have, and then that card flip means high wins, and you fall off the platform, and that's game over.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you could have done to stop that.
Exactly, yeah.
So, if that frustrates you, I would stay that away from the game. It does have that high random, high luck factor. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily dice rolls, but just setup and card flips.
Mm.
So, any other thoughts?
No. I mean, play this game.
Play the games.
Site.
Yeah. So, that wraps up our review of the Forbidden Island / Desert / Sky series.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested because it kind of has this weird narrative of like you find, your airship, which is what you built in Desert, is what you land on the platform in Sky, and then you take a rocket ship off Sky.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to get a Forbidden Space next?
That'd be interesting to see. I don't see them stopping anytime soon.
They put one out every little bit. It's not like they're like yearly in things, but I can see them doing another one. Sky came out 2 Gen Cons ago. So, and then officially hit shelves like 4 or 5 months after that. But still, it's been around for a little over a year now.
Yeah.
Year and a half or so. So, I could see another one popping up in another year or so. Next on Tabletop Arcanum, we will be doing a review on Arkham Noir, a solo card game.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. You've played this already a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty excited to jump into this. Just a one-player.
Yeah, little simple one-player, relatively quick-ish game. Other than, it's also one of those like pocket travel games. Like it's a deck of cards. That's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another one of those easy to pack and go on the road. So we'll talk about that more in our next episode. Coming up, we are almost hitting 50 episodes.
Yes, we are.
So, as we always have, big thank you to our listeners as far as, downloading, listening, spreading the word of Tabletop Arcanum, either through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, carrier pigeon.
Smoke signal,
However, just writing it on walls, any wall, really. Someone will see the message.
Yeah.
Keep spreading the word, and what we're looking for on our 50th episode is kind of a ask us anything. So submit your questions either through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email. All of them are at Tabletop Arcanum. Email
Makes it
is
super easy.
Yep. And then email is tabletoparcanum@gmail.com. So nice and easy. Pretty much find us by Googling Tabletop Arcanum. And you can reach out to us at any of those channels, and we will notate your question, and we will put it on our Ask Us Anything 50th episode hoopla, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it a hoopla?
It's a hootenanny.
Hootenanny. We'll call it a hootenanny.
Hootenanny.
All right. So that is it for us this week. So until next time, this has been Justin.
And Ricky, and I've been told I'm not allowed to Google forbidden jokes.
Yeah, no, we're just going to let this one go. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to Tabletop Arcanum, hosted by Justin Taylor and Richard Geese, and featuring the original music by Paul Moore and Isaac Gilbert. You can follow us on most social media platforms. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. As always, thanks for listening.